We all see the massive contracts, right? The flashy endorsement deals, the incredible lifestyles. But have you ever stopped and wondered how the wealthiest basketball players really built their fortunes? I'll give you a hint. It had very little to do with what they did on the court. In this explainer, we're going from court to capital to break down the real secrets.
So let's just kick things off with a wild question. What if I told you that the single richest basketball player in the history of the sport, well, he built his massive empire almost entirely off the court? It's a crazy thought, and it kind of messes with everything we assume about how athletes make their money.
In this quote right here, this is the entire game plan. This is the core idea of our whole explainer. In basketball, your talent gets you noticed. It makes you a star. But it's the business moves that make you truly rich. That's the key. We have to look beyond the hardwood.
Okay, so how do they actually do it? Where does it all begin? Well, it all starts with the foundation, the first and absolutely most critical step, building a personal brand.
You've got to understand, this is a huge mental shift. On one hand, you have their on-court skill. That's what gets them in the door. But on the other hand, and this is where the real money is, you have brand building. It's all about turning that fame into a real, durable asset that's going to last long after the final buzzer. And you can see it in action right here. You've got Kyrie Irving, whose sneaker deals made him a global icon. Then there's Giannis Antetokounmpo, who turned his incredible, powerful life story into a marketable brand. Yao Ming, he was a cultural bridge, unlocking the entire Chinese market. And of course, Stephen Curry, who turned his influence into a full-blown media empire. Every single one of them took what made them unique and built something much bigger. So the lesson here is pretty simple, right? Influence equals income. Your personal brand, your story, that's not just a side project, it's a core financial asset. But believe it or not, this is just level one.
So, you've built the brand, what's the next move? This is where the truly wealthy players make a huge leap. They go from just earning a paycheck to actually owning things. They develop an investor mindset.
And this timeline lays out that whole journey perfectly. You start by just playing the game, right? You earn a salary. Then you use your brand to get those big endorsement deals. But the real game changer, the leap that matters, is when you start investing, buying assets, taking equity. That's when you go from being an employee to an owner.
And when you talk about this principle, there is no better example than the late, great Kobe Bryant. He got the power of ownership on a deep, deep level.
And this is where the story gets insane. See, Kobe didn't just endorse Body Armor for a paycheck. No, he invested $6 million of his own money early on. And that single investment, it turned into a payout of over $400 million. I mean, that one move dwarfed a lot of his massive NBA contracts. And this just hammers home a critical lesson. Equity is everything. Think of it like this. A salary is like getting paid to water a plant. But equity is owning the seed. As that plant grows into a giant tree, your wealth grows right along with it, exponentially. And Kobe wasn't alone in playing this game. You've got Kevin Durant, who saw the future and invested early in tech companies like Uber. Shaq's pre-IPO investment in Google is the stuff of legend, and now he owns hundreds of franchises. Dwayne Wade is now a team owner himself, and Hakeem Olajuwon quietly built a real estate empire. They all understood the same thing. Owning the asset is the real path to wealth.
Okay, but what if you could take it even further? What if you go beyond just investing in other people's businesses and you start to build your own empire? Well, that's the next level. That's where the player becomes the business. Just take a look at this chart. It's mind-blowing. On the left, that little bar is what Junior Bridgman earned in his entire NBA career, just under $3 million. And that giant bar on the right, that's his net worth after he retired and built a business empire, over $600 million. The difference isn't just big, it's a completely different reality.
For guys like Bridgman, empire builders, this quote says it all. The real game truly does start after the final buzzer. Their second act is their main event.
And you can see this exact path with two of the biggest names to ever do it. Magic Johnson became a business titan. He mastered the franchise model, bringing huge brands like Starbucks into communities that were overlooked. And then you have LeBron James, who has built a billion-dollar empire from the ground up. Pizza chains, media companies, you name it. They didn't just play the game, they built their own.
And that brings us to the very top, the summit, the GOAT of money. The one player who took all of these lessons, the branding, the ownership, the empire building, and combined them all into one legendary, game-changing deal.
So, Who is the undisputed GOAT when it comes to making money in basketball? Honestly, it's not even close. $3 billion. Let that number just sink in for a second. That's not just a big number, it is a statement. It's more than the next 10 players on the list combined. We are talking about a totally different stratosphere of wealth.
Of course, we are talking about Michael Jordan. But the story here isn't just about the number, it's about how one specific deal changed absolutely everything. So how did he do it? How did he get to that number? It wasn't a salary, that's for sure. It wasn't even just his normal endorsements. It was something else entirely. So what was the secret?
And here it is. This is the ultimate lesson. It all came down to one single deal, his partnership with Nike. But this wasn't a normal endorsement. It was an equity deal. Jordan gets a percentage of every single pair of Air Jordans sold, forever. He didn't just wear the shoe, he became the brand.
So, if we put it all together, what's the ultimate playbook we've learned? First, you build a brand that's bigger than just your job. Second, you have to shift your mindset from earning to owning. Third, you scale that success into an actual empire. And fourth, you always keep your eyes open for that one transformative deal that can change the entire game.
The one thing all these legends have in common is that they learned to see the game beyond the court. They were playing a much bigger game. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Are you playing the game you're paid to play? Or are you playing the one that's going to build your real legacy?